Some of the worst fighting of World War I took place in the Dolomites, which straddle the boundary between Austria and Italy. War debris and tunnels ripped through the mountains. The Dolomites' topography rendered the mountains especially difficult for the soldiers from Austria and Italy. High elevations, bitter cold, and other challenges were faced by both sides. Because of their composition, the Dolomites have a pale color, and they are particularly stunning at dawn and dusk. They are frequently referred to as the Pale Mountains due to their remarkable beauty and coloring. Throughout the ages, they have been the focus of numerous myths, legends, folktales, and stories due to their unearthly look. In fact, renowned literary works may have been influenced by the mountains. The site of the Dolomites comprises a mountain range in the northern Italian Alps, numbering 18 peaks which rise to above 3,000 meters and cover 141,903 chia. It features some of the most beautiful mountain landscapes anywhere, with vertical walls, sheer cliffs, and a high density of narrow, deep, and long valleys. Kilimanjaro is the tallest freestanding mountain in the world, as well as the highest peak in Africa. Standing 5,195 meters, 19,941 feet above sea level, the top is known as Uhuru Point. Kilimanjaro and other freestanding mountains are typically the product of volcanic activity. Molten rock erupts and piled up on the surface to form volcanic mountains. In Tanzania, Mount Kilimanjaro is located only 205 miles from the equator. Because they believed it was impossible for ice to form so close to the scorching tropical sun, people did not trust early explorers who reported seeing glaciers on the summit. It is currently thought by scientists that during the planet's ice ages, the glaciers retreat and then expand again. A stratovolcano, or massive volcano, composed of rock, ash, and lava, is what Mount Kilimanjaro is. Since Mwenzi and Shira are extinct volcanoes, there is no activity beneath their cones. Situated in Mount Cook National Park on the South Island of New Zealand, Mount Wakefield rises to a height of 2,058 meters. Accessible from the Tasman Valley Road, the ascent of the ridge is straightforward. With some amazing views, it's a perfect one-day excursion to help you regain your mountain legs. The highest mountain in New Zealand sits Mount Wakefield, one of the 19 holy mountains in the world. Mount Wakefield was bestowed with mighty spiritual abilities that are boundless by the Master Jesus. On Christmas Eve 1960, through Dr. George King, a Western master of yoga, the cosmic avatar, Jesus transmitted energy into the mount. People have been captivated and amazed by the Himalayas, the most magnificent mountain range in the world, for ages. These majestic giants, which are spread across 5 nations, China, Pakistan, India, Nepal, and Bhutan, are home to a wealth of natural and cultural treasures. These highlands are home to enormous snow-capped mountains. Many people aspire to walk to the summit of the Himalayas at least once in their lifetime, despite the fact that the route is fraught with risk. A common misconception is that the Himalayas are the youngest mountain range on Earth. This name is derived from the fact that, in geological terms, they only started to form some 50 million As long as the Indian and Eurasian tectonic plates continue to collide, this formation process will continue. With its astounding elevation of 8,848 meters, 29,029 feet, above sea level, Mount Everest is the highest peak on Earth. It is situated at the frontier of China's Tibet Autonomous Region and Nepal. The Himalayas are known as the Water Tower of Asia for giving rise to significant rivers that supply water to millions of people in South Asia and beyond. These rivers receive a constant supply of water for hydropower, irrigation, and other necessities from the vast glacier and snowmelt waters of the Himalayan ranges. In 1865, Sir Andrew Waugh christened Mount Everest in remembrance of his predecessor, Sir George Everest, who served as India's Surveyor General from 1830 to 1843. Mount Fuji, also known as Fujiyama, is the highest mountain in Japan. Tradition holds that an earthquake around 286 BCE built the volcano. The reality is a little more nuanced. Although Fuji's exact age is unknown, it appears to have formed during the last 2.6 million years on a base that may have existed 65 million years ago. Most likely, the first peaks and eruptions happened after 700,000 years ago. Komitake, which makes up the mountain's north slope, and Ashitaka-yama, which is located to the southeast of the peak, were the earliest predecessors to Mount Fuji. Mount Fuji is a volcano that last erupted in 1707. It is located on the Honshu Island. The remarkably symmetrical cone of Mount Fuji, which receives snowfall for approximately half the year, is widely recognized as a cultural symbol of Japan and is frequently portrayed in artwork and photography. It is also a popular destination for tourists, hikers, and mountain climbers, even though this volcano hasn't erupted. The mountain is the primary feature of the 1936 established Fuji-Hakone-Izu National Park and is the focal point of a 2013 UNESCO World Heritage Site. The volcanic chain that stretches northward from the Mariana Islands and the Izu Islands through the Izu Peninsula to northern Honshu includes Mount Fuji. The Fuji Five Lakes, Fuji Goko, which are formed by the damming effects of lava flows, are located on the northern slopes of Mount Fuji. From east to west, they are Lake Yamanaka, Lake Kawaguchi, Lake Sai, Lake Shoji, and Lake Morosu. Mount Fuji is one of Japan's 3 holy mountains, along with Mount Tate and Mount Haku. It has long been a site of religious significance for Confucianism, Buddhism, and Shintoism. Next is Mount Everest. At 8,840 meters in height, Mount Everest was originally measured in 1856. After that, the elevation was changed to 8,848 meters in 1955, and that is still the height officially declared by the government of Nepal. There is a disagreement, nevertheless, since the Chinese claim that Mount Everest is 8,844 meters. On May 29, 1953, Sir Edmund Hillary of New Zealand achieved the first successful summit. Tenzing Norgay, a Sherpa from Nepal, went with him. In 1924, climbers Andrew Irvine and George Mallory made an attempt to reach the top of Mount Everest. They were last observed on July the 8th of that year, moving upward just below the peak. Apart from the Everest Base Camp, 5,150 meters, 16,900 feet, there are 5 other camps on a Chinese side. Camp 1, which is located at 5,800 meters, 19,028 feet, high. Camp 2, 6,500 meters, 21,325 feet. Camp 3, 7,028 meters, 23,057 feet. Camp 4, 7,790 meters, 25,557 feet. And Camp 5, 8,300 meters, 27,230 feet. George Everest does not discover Mount Everest. George Everest did not discover that peak to be the highest in the world, despite the fact that the mountain bears his name. Rather, Indian surveyor and mathematician Radhanath Sikdar made the discovery of Mount Everest. Despite the base camp, which is located at 5,164 meters, or 17,598 feet on the Nepalese side, there are 4 more camps. Climbers are more likely to use these camps as stations, breaks, or depots. Kami Rita holds the record for the most summit ascent attempts, with 24 summit. The Alps are a transition area, or interzonal mountain chain, or a biome, that separates Central and Mediterranean Europe. With 200 distinct ecosystems distributed over the mountain range, the Alps contain a high degree of habitat diversity. This mountain range supports a tremendous diversity of life. A mountain range known as the Hercynian Mountains existed where the French Alps currently lie. However, by the end of the Paleozoic epoch, it began to erode. The Alpine orogeny started the process of forming the Alps 65 million years ago, following extensive erosion and flooding. At 4,807 meters, or 15,771 feet, the highest peak in Europe is called Mont Blanc in French and Monte Bianco in Italian. Situated on the French-Italian border and extending into Switzerland, it is part of the French Alpine region. Despite their small size in relation to Europe, they supply 90% of the water that enters the continent's rivers and lakes. Furthermore, around 500 hydroelectric power facilities employ these waters to produce up to 2,900 gigawatt-hours of electricity. You can appreciate how ancient and magnificent they are by comparing that figure to the age of the mountain range. The Iceman, commonly known as Ötzi, is a 5,000-year-old man who was mummified. In September of 1991, he was found in the Ötztal Alps, on the border between Austria and Italy, a region that now bears his name. However, because one place is so different from the others, The weather varies depending on it. The Atlantic brings mild, humid air to the west. It's Arctic and freezing up north. In the east, summers are hot and dry, and winters are chilly. The Mediterranean air moves toward the south. The individual who lived in this natural mummy was born between 3,400 and 300 BCE. The Alps are enormous overall. They cover a wide range of nations and account for 11% of Europe's land area. The Alps have a very strong influence on Europe's climate. This is due to the fact that the Alps have many huge variations in elevation and exposure, controlling the winds and the air in all of Europe. The Matterhorn at 4,478 m is the hardest classic in the Alps. Only rocks and ice are used for the ascent and descent, necessitating exceptional physical fitness and prior rock climbing experience with and without crampons. Situated on the border between the canton of Valais and Italy, this attraction is emblematic of Switzerland and draws tourists from all over the world. Its nearly perfect pyramid shape is the reason for its reputation, which it is known by internationally under its German name, the Matterhorn. July 1865 saw the first ascent of the Matterhorn. Led by British Edward Whymper, a group of 7 persons began the trek in Zermatt and made it all the way to the top. Regretfully, 4 of them sadly lost their lives while descending. The details of what transpired are yet unknown. One of the 3 original e-ticket rides was the Matterhorn. Third Man on the Mountain, a Walt Disney production, is a movie about climbers on the Matterhorn that was shot in Zermatt, Switzerland. Walt wanted a miniature of the mountain for Disneyland after falling in love with it.